This presentation today and demonstration is about a new, very exciting open source platform we're launching called MindMeld. Lee Klarich mentioned it in his keynote presentation. He put a slide up on there, but the name of this session, because we haven't publicly released it, was a little ambiguous. So anyways. So a key tenet of MindMeld is essentially that today, all of our customers, all the people that leverage our platforms, they consume intelligence or third-party threat feeds from a number of sources. Today, in their environment, there's a huge gap as to how they can leverage them. So if you want to consume them and leverage them in your edge gateway, or actually leverage your Palo Alto Networks firewalls for enforcement from those TI feeds, essentially you've got to do a lot of manual work. You have to actually ingest it. There's probably a process that you have to kind of look at it, federate it against other data sources, and then ultimately make it consumable by the platform. Luigi and I have run experiments over the years. He actually had a server that was sitting out in the wild and amalgamated open source TI feeds and published them. There wasn't any advertising of this. Some of our SEs knew about it. Pretty soon we had about 400 of our largest customers pulling those TI feeds in a consumable fashion for Palo Alto Networks firewalls. It's a pretty good data point. But ultimately, what's been missing is a way to automatically ingest them, compare them against each other, and ultimately consume them. An indicator, you'll hear a lot of the TI vendors and people in the threat industry talk about indicators of threats, critical things. We're all taught that those are very important. An indicator is not the same thing as a signature. So an indicator could just be an IP address. Now, a signature may be that IP address plus some other data, maybe a full path, something that indicates a more specific match in order to add value to it. So but you'd expect to have less false positives potentially with a signature than just a generic indicator. And finally, intelligence feeds. So things that people are actually bundling and delivering to you, usually with a subscription, they're often bundled with context or intelligence about that indicator. So it's just important when we think about these things because the reality is some vendors may just give you a list of IP addresses and say, trust us, these are bad. Do you trust them? Maybe you do. Wouldn't it be great if you could verify that list against another set of artifacts or potentially even the logs from your own firewall to see if there's a match before you actually block those? How many people have had emails blocked because you were on a spam list? Early days, Palo Alto Networks, no lie. I couldn't send emails to most of the people, my partners that I worked with, because we got put on a spam house list. Sweet. Not a lot of intelligence in that indicator. Another critical aspect of this is how long is an indicator valid? So maybe somebody did something at Palo Alto Networks that warranted being blocked, but it wasn't me, and it wasn't a month later when I still couldn't send email. So a lot of threat feeds and a lot of data sources will have either their own arbitrary age out or they'll be additive. And if they're additive, those indicators never go away. Ultimately, you get to a point where what's valid, what's still intelligence, what do I want to block on? Every source is unique. I could pull every single person in this room. For their organization, I guarantee no two would leverage the same threat intelligence feeds. You may have some of the same. You may have some subscriptions that are the same. But the combination of what you feel for your organization is relevant and important will never be the same. Now, there is a case where federated makes sense. So if you're in a financial services occupation or organization, there's probably some commonalities. Regionally, there may be some commonalities with the way that attacks happen and whatnot. But every data source is its own unique bag of tricks. We mentioned like intelligence, the data that comes in with the feed. It's very important to not lose the context of what comes in with the original threat feed. Because if there is a match on it, if there is something you're trying to do forensics on after, how do you actually drive that to a successful conclusion of where that indicator even came from in the first place? So with the data feeds that are different, every single organization has a different process for dealing with them, right? So InfoSec teams themselves will vary on a customer by customer, ITsec site, even potentially within the same organization. So your policies, the types of devices you want to consume these outputs, not only the feeds in, but what you do with them. Maybe you want to learn from the open source IP block lists, but you don't ever want to block anything on them. You just want to know if they're occurring on your network. Maybe you're the opposite. You want to block everything that occurs on there. So every org is different. Now, I would say Swiss Army knife here, but that is not, in part, the globalization of what this is. This is the multi-tool of threat indicator feeds. Now, this is a concept that's come about from years of us working with our customers, talking with our customers, and realizing those different variances that we've already kind of covered. Everybody's got different feeds. Everybody has different processes. Nobody's got an automated way to ingest them. So this platform allows you to consume any third-party data feed. It's actually pretty trivial to get a new data source in. We've been in, we'll call it beta for this for a few months. We've already had customers committing back data sources into the MindMeld project. There are a bunch of pre-canned ones and valuable third-party ones already built in, but it's really easy to build your own. So we enable you to take those in, automate them, immediately publish. There's some new features on 7.1. Dynamic external lists aren't just IP lists anymore. Now you can actually create dynamic external lists of URLs and domains, adding, again, more value to the enforcement from your external threat feeds. There's never been an easy way for you to harvest data from your Palo Alto Networks platform. So if you wanted to pull additional indicators or compare indicators out of Wildfire, Autofocus, or the firewalls themselves, you'd have to write your own scripts together to do this, cobble something, and do that comparison on your own. So this platform also gives you an easy vehicle for pulling that data in from our platform, comparing it, and publishing it. So what MindMeld does is really bridge that gap. Takes the inputs, processing, it's a very simple subsystem. Luigi's going to walk through a demo and how it works, and ultimately publishing it. And that publishing workflow may just be to the Palo Altos in a fully automated state. It could be going to your NetSec ops team, or it could be federating to another series of MindMelds that's in your supply chain at a business partner. Closing the loop. So not only can you publish to the Palos and use them for enforcement, you can then take the data or the output from those matches on the Palo Alto and use that to publish back upstream to other threat composite indicators, your incident response system, when there has been a match. So again, it's giving back data that would only be in the NetSec ops view of Panorama or the firewall, and pumping that back in Stix Taxi, any format you want, into your IR feed. And finally, sharing. Our CEO is big on public and private sharing. You guys heard in his talk that the goal here is to raise the cost, the burden of successful attacks. This is a platform that gives you kind of a stepping stone to get there, because you can decide, this puts in the customer's hands the ability to not only consume what they want, but also to share what they want. So you may decide something's vertical to your industry. You may choose to publish it to your peers. Think FS-ISAC, right? You've got the ability to send out a common set of indicators that are applicable to everybody in financial services. There are micro fiefdoms within every industry where that's pertinent. Supply chain, if you're a global manufacturer. Maybe they don't all have, everyone in your supply chain may not be equipped with Palo Alto firewalls. You could still federate MindMeld data to them to let them know that something really bad that could compromise you can be kept off of their networks. So this is really the first step in a long journey for us to get this data into the hands of the customers in not only a way that's easier to consume, but in a way that's easier to share, and thereby really drastically increase the cost of the people that are trying to attack you. And with that, we're going to bring up the flying monkey.
Okay. So we have prepared a bunch of really boring videos for demo. So instead of showing the video, I've decided, I'll take it on me, to go for a live demo, risk my happiness on a live demo. I think it's way more interesting. Of course, this will increase my chance of epic failure. OK, so this is MineMeld. This is the fancy dashboard you see when you log in. The look and feel is the pre-marketing look and feel. So probably most probably, the final release will be slightly different. There will be a different logo, different color, some glitter, some unicorns, some rainbows here and there. On the dashboard, oh, this is a nice dashboard. You can change the time range. You can see a number of interesting statistics. Nice, cool, not really that much interesting, I think. I think it's way more interesting looking at how MyMail works inside. Okay? So the graph you see here really represents the processing logic that this MyMail instance is applying to indicators. Okay? So first thing, MindMeld, oh, I remember to say that. I forgot to say that. MindMeld is a tool you can download and install inside your premises, inside your DMZ, or in the cloud. Okay? So it's really an instance you completely own. You can log in, you can change everything, you can do whatever you want. So the processing logic inside the graph is quite simple. The indicator flows in from your left, right? Your left, and then go right. The green nodes on your left are called miner. They are responsible for retrieve or receive indicators from external sources. Each miner, each green node is actually connected to a different feed, right? All of them are completely independent. All of them have different configuration, different polling intervals, or can talk different protocols here. So the green nodes are responsible for retrieving the indicator and translate them in the MineMeld internal format. I prefer to use the term translate or transform and not normalize, because internally MineMeld is not using a fixed schema. Okay? This is really important to avoid losing context in translation. All the feeds are different. All of them are different attributes for each indicator. If you try to push that information in a fixed normalized schema, you are going to lose some information in the way. Instead, MineMeld internally uses a schema where there is only a really limited set of mandatory attributes, and everything else is dynamic. It can be added or removed. It really depends on the source of the feed and source of the indicator. Okay. So the miner receives the indicator and push it downstream to the red nodes called processor nodes, where you can apply your own business logic to it. The result of this processing logic is then sent again to the yellow nodes on your right. This is difficult. This is really beyond my 2 neurons. And the output nodes, the yellow nodes, are responsible for rendering the stream of indicators in a format that can be consumed by our platform. Let's look this simple miner here. This is a miner for the DShield block list. This is actually an instance of a pre-canned configuration with what we call prototype. This is MyMeld comes with a library of prototypes of pre-configured miners. You can, of course, you can create your own miners. You can create your own configuration. You can change everything on the instance. You can add information to the library. Okay? But and yes, and of course, you can contribute it back to the community. So there is some configuration inside the miner. This is a simple miner using a class, a type of class for retrieving plain text feed over HTTP. But you can also, there are miners talking with different protocols or different in different format, like the recorded future miner, where if you have a recorded future customer, you will receive an API token. The recorded future miner just took the recorded future API and periodically retrieve the indicators from recorded future. You can just create an instance of the recorded future miner and set your API token here, and it will be automatically start retrieving indicators from the recorded future API. Each node has a set of metrics, so you can check its behavior, what's happening, and troubleshooting your graph. And also you can check the number of indicators that have been added or removed over the time. This information is sent to the inbound aggregator here. You see that the recorded future, the shield block list are all connected to a common inbound aggregator that is responsible for aggregating indicators from multiple sources and dedupe them and generate a unique stream of indicators, and then send them downstream to the output nodes. The output nodes, you see that there are 3 output nodes connected to the same indicator here, to the same aggregator. All of them receive the same set of indicators, but each of them has a different inbound filter applied. So each of them select a subset of the indicator for publishing. In this specific case, these output nodes select indicator based on the confidence level of the indicator itself. The confidence level inside MindMeld is a mandatory attribute with a value between 0 and 100. Okay? So there are 3 bands of confidence in this specific configuration, where you have low confidence when the confidence level is below 50, medium confidence is between 50 and 75, and high confidence if the indicator has a confidence level above 75. Let's look, okay, the small one. Let's look inside the output node. This specific class of output nodes generate a format that can be directly consumed by dynamic block list or external dynamic list of PanOS. You see a URL here. You can directly use this URL inside the PanOS configuration to define a new dynamic list to be used inside the policies. So are you familiar with dynamic block list, external dynamic list? Could you raise your hand if some yes or no? No, you are not. OK. I'll go briefly through the configuration of a dynamic block list. This is the PanOS 7.0. Don't be misled by the name of the feature. Dynamic block list doesn't imply block. Okay? So it's a way to define an address group inside PanOS where the addresses are automatically, periodically retrieved from a URL. You can define each output node generate a feed, and then you can define a dynamic block list per feed and use it inside the policies. So here we have configured a high confidence indicator for inbound indicator. Inbound means that the indicators, the IP indicator in this case, should be matched against the source address of the session. Usually, this kind of indicator are linked to brute forcers, scanners, and that kind of noise attack. Outbound indicators are instead relative to usually command and control server or open proxy and things like that. Inside the policies, you can use those dynamic block lists where the content is defined by MineMeld, and then decide using the policy what to do with the session matching that indicator. So like for inbound feed, high confidence, I may want to drop the session directly. Maybe for medium confidence instead, maybe I want to, I don't know, create a anti-DOS policy based on that source IP, or apply a strict vulnerability profile, IPS. I want to rise the level of security applied to session coming from medium confidence indicator. Same for the outbound. Maybe I want to block session going to outbound high confidence indicator. And instead, for medium confidence indicator, I want to apply some really strict security profile for blocking executables and things like that. One additional thing you can do with MindMeld is actually matching the indicator against your logs. So you can point Panorama or directly PanoS to MindMeld as a Syslog server. And this node here, called the Syslog Matcher, will match the logs against a set of indicators. And when a session match an indicator, three things could happen actually. First thing is the a counter is incremented. So you can check the history or which source provided the most valuable indicators for your environment. The metric you see here are coming from the three feeds that have been matched in the last 24 hours. The shield block, recorded future, and PanoS Syslog. This is something that we will talk about later. A new indicator is generated and pushed downstream from the Syslog matcher. And the information about the match could be recorded in an Elasticsearch instance, in an external Elasticsearch instance. You can see here, this is the classical EL key stack, where you can see all the details about the match and all the details about the indicator and about the session. You can see here the internal format of MindMeld. You see that the number of attributes are really dependent on the feed. In the case of recorded future, they provide context around the indicator. Most of the open source feed don't provide any context around that. They're just a fixed list of indicators. For recorded future, they provide context. And there is more context you can check clicking on a URL. And the URL is directly provided here inside the Elasticsearch view. So if you can click on this, you're redirected to recorded future site where you can see all the context and why the indicator is there, where I found it, and all the kind of information you can dig it. As I said before, the Syslog matcher can also generate a new indicator. This is really useful because if you have a really huge set of indicators, you can push all of them to the platform, right? Using the Syslog matcher, you can push only the indicators that are matching your sessions. And in this case, the Syslog matcher is attached to a DAG pusher node. DAG pusher is a kind of thoughtful node that can generate dynamic address group API calls. So every time an indicator is sent to this node here, it will send an API call to a list of devices I can define here. And inside the PanoS, of course, I can create my dynamic address group using the filter. I can configure the DAG pusher node and decide which attribute of the indicator should be used as a tag for the DAG. So I can create a dynamic address group and decide which, like the confidence, by default, the confidence and direction are pushed. So I can define a dynamic address group matching all the indicator pushed by MindMeld with high confidence and inbound. These, again, will generate a group, an address group I can use inside the policies. And I have it here. OK. We have just talked about IP addresses, but if you switch to 7.1, the external dynamic list feature now can support also domains and URLs, and MyMail can support them as well. Actually, MyMail can process any kind of indicators. So inside the list, this is a completely different instance of MyMail, running again on Amazon Web Services in a different data center. Let me, OK, let's do this. OK, completely different graph, really simple. Here you have 3 miners. One of them is connected to a public taxi server, retrieving indicators in sticks format. This specific public taxi server provides a URL retrieved from phishing emails. Okay. And then you have another, this is an open source miner attached to the ransomware tracker, retrieving URLs linked to ransomware. And then you have the autofocus miner. With the autofocus miner, you can connect to the autofocus cloud and periodically retrieve all the indicators that you have inserted in a specific export list on autofocus. You can set your API key here and the name of the export list you are interested in. Of course, you can create multiple miners of the same types, with the same API key, monitor different export lists. OK. Indicators are retrieved and pushed to different aggregators based on the type. And again, you have the same thing. Indicators are processed, sent to the output node, and then you can link it to external dynamic list inside the panel S. So with 7.1, again, you can define different type of dynamic list. And the URL list is just create a new custom category you can use inside the policies to do the same kind of processing and apply the same logic we were using for IP addresses before. Domain feed, the same. With domain feed, you can connect it to anti-spyware profiles and decide what to do based on, again, on the confidence level you have in the different indicators. Okay. One additional thing I want to show you is false positive management. The first time we presented this idea to our internal team of security researchers, probably the first feedback was you have to manage false positive, okay? Because they are not just a mistake, they happen. It's really difficult to get rid of false positive, or it's really difficult to reduce the probability of false positive of an indicator to 0%. Right? So they could happen. So you have to be ready for that. So MindMeld supports the idea of a whitelist, where you can create a static list of indicators that will be whitelisted. You can add indicator to this list. Let's add it to this one. I like it. I like it more. Okay. I can add this is a whitelist for IP addresses. We support both IPv4 and IPv6. I can define a stupid range here. I can select the direction or the share label and say, OK. Nice. the indicator has been created and pushed downstream to the aggregator that will use that indicator to whitelist other indicators. So if an indicator is received by the aggregator, if a malicious indicator is retrieved from an aggregator matching the whitelist, it won't be pushed downstream to the output node. This is a way to do that. There's another way using log links. So if you are, let's say you have created this policy here, blocking session matching high confidence indicator. Let's see the logs of it. Okay. And you say that a specific IP is a false positive for you. Let's say this one, the first one. I can click on the detailed log view, and using log links, click, let's say that the source IP is a false positive here. I can click on the log link here, and yes. And I can add it to my whitelist directly from the log link. And let's say there's a share level green here. No. No. One additional mandatory attribute of indicator is the share level. Share level means that if that indicator should be just processed in that instance of MindMeld, or could also be shared outside. Okay? Setting the share level, so you can filter, again, as I said before, you can apply inbound filter to each node. This way you can match on the share level to make sure that by mistake you are not starting to share something that should be consumed only internally. It could be sensitive information, confidential information, could be indicator you are receiving from private feeds, or indicator you are receiving from commercial feeds. One additional thing, lots of stuff here, is the Syslog Miner. So until now, we have seen configuration where MyMail is going out, retrieving indicator, and then translate them in something that can be consumed by Palo Alto Networks platform, and that's it. Okay. Now we can see how you can close the loop. How can you retrieve, analyze the logs from Palo Alto Networks, extract the indicator from the log, and share them with someone else. You can do that using the Syslog Miner. Syslog Miner is a miner node that instead of fetching indicator from a third-party source, just wait and of receiving indicators, receiving logs from PanOS platforms. All the logs are processed using a list of rules. There is a bug here. A list of rules. Each rule is defined by a set of conditions. The conditions are basically tell the node which log should be processed. Like, let's see some example here. This rule here, incoming SSH threads, actually have 5 conditions. So the conditions are the log should be a threat log. It should be of a specific thread type, and should be go to application SSH. And if all the conditions are matching, then a new indicator will be created using the source IP of the log, and additional feeds of the log will be added to the indicator. This is another example here where you have a rule where that actually analyze URL logs with category malware and create a new indicator. No, I don't see people with the card. Okay, we are almost there, sorry. And analyze URL logs with category malware and generate a new indicator using the referrer header, and add some information about the original log, like the original URL and the original destination IP. This is something maybe you don't want to use to enforce, but it's useful for analysis. Okay, if you look at the graph of this specific node, you see that the node is connected to a single output node. This output node is really specific and is used to share the indicators. Okay. So the two instances we have seen so far of MindMeld are actually connected together using a central server. On the central server, you can define multiple channels, and the output node just publish indicator to that specific channel, and all the other MindMeld instances, like this one here in the other data center, can connect to that channel and start retrieving indicators from it. The indicators are then pushed again inside the aggregator and inside the Syslog matcher. So before, when we were looking at the metric inside the Syslog matcher, the PanoS Syslog feed is actually the indicator, the feed of indicator that has been extracted by the other MindMeld instances in the other data center and shared with this instance here. And the nice thing is that you can also share false positive, because you can just connect the output nodes for sharing to your whitelist, and every time you add a new indicator to that whitelist, that can be automatically shared to the other instances. Okay. Of course, you can apply inbound filters to the output nodes to avoid start sharing red level, red share, to avoid start sharing red level indicators. Okay. Okay.
So all of that was really simple, right? Everything Luigi covered? Rest assured, that's a configuration exercise in the platform. You guys don't have to go do a bunch of coding to do that, and that's pretty incredible. For those of you that are DevOps-centric and you are really reversers or ITsec, serious people that want to dig into that, it's very easy to add to this. I did want to call out our first third-party threat feed that we incorporated in this was Recorded Future. The guys are actually in the room. Raise your hands. And they're out in the expo hall today if you get a chance to go see them. They've got some really interesting context and data to share. How is it available, Luigi? How do these guys get MindMeld today?
Now it's available today. We are in the extended beta mode. And if you are signed in the live community, you have to be signed in. You have to be signed in.
I think you have to be signed in.
Yeah, I think so. Don't try to search it if you are not signed in. And you go to topics, integration, MindMeld is there. You can download the OVA, you can click on the CloudFormation URL to spawn a new instance on Amazon Web Services and so on. And right now, the code is not open source yet, but
soon.
Soon.
Yeah, we have it out on GitHub. We haven't made that public or live yet. We will when we formally launch it in the next couple of months. People that get in on the beta start leveraging the platform, and there's already well over 100 that are using it. And this is the first time we've publicly talked about it, so hopefully we'll double that number today. We really encourage you to play with this, and it is a very unique solution. And regardless of the apparent complexity, it's actually very simple to use. He scares me all the time. It really is easy to use, and it's trivial to bring this thing up. There's so many use cases in here that we haven't really explored given the timing. A funny one is, the IP addresses for Office 365 change on a regular basis. We have one customer that's actually leveraging that to enable Office 365 because They use an indicator miner to go get the IP addresses daily for Office 365, pre-plumb them into a security policy, no interruption of service. So again, use cases are numerous. Any questions from you guys?
What about the cost? Is there a cost for this?
It is yours for the unbelievably low cost of free. Yeah, this is an open source platform. As we learn through this process, we'll take pieces of this and federate it into Panorama or autofocus. This itself won't be productized. We're going to keep this on an open source train. We feel it's very important that other people can contribute to it and that we can also build this as a really large thread ecosystem and sharing federated environment that doesn't exist in the market today. So if you charge for it, we'd have a lockdown list of vendors that could do it, and other vendors do that in the space. We don't think that's the right approach. Yes.
What's the minimum requirement? What's the minimum number of instances I need to run a full-fledged architecture? 2?
The minimum requirements are really, really low. It really depends on the number of nodes and the volume of indicators you want to process. But the minimum is like one core and 500 megabytes of memory.
Yeah, I mean, since there is the feedback and the output from the syslog is going back, so
it depends.
Okay.
Okay. Awful answer. It depends. But it has been designed to require really a little memory and little few CPU if you want to do something simple. Of course, if you want to analyze a huge amount of syslog per second, you have to be ready to give it hardware or resources.
And there's ways to solve that. You can have federated additional MineMelds, or you can bump up the processing and memory power and storage of a single MineMeld.
We are in process of doing some performance tests to give a better scalability number on that.
Thank you.
Of all the people that have installed and are working with it now, they're using a single instance of MindMeld and a really low-end AWS server to play with it. Yes.
So my question is about the whitelist, and you can share them out. Have you guys seen any issues with people, maliciously sharing whitelists with other organizations? Is that?
I think the opposite is probably what we run into, which is people sharing blacklists rather than whitelists. But it's theoretically possible. The idea, again, with the whitelist is that for you to control your own level of assertion over false positives. And when you say share it, it could actually just be sharing it or federating it to another one of your MindMeld instances at a remote site. So we're not encouraging people to publish their own global whitelist of all that is good and right in the universe. Those are data points and indicators, and without the context of it, I wouldn't trust it. I'm no sane security person would.
Yeah, how do you reconcile different aging values from different indicator feeds at the aggregator level?
You ignore them. No, we provide an override for them because, again, you may want a different age out.
Each miner is completely different, and each miner could have a different age out policy, because every feed is different and apply different aging out policies, and the edge miner has to be different in that case. Yes, but it's the miner itself that is taking out of the aging out. So when an indicator ages out, the miner I'm scaring them again, but it sends sends a message downstream to the graph saying, we draw this indicator, this as edged out. And all the node downstream will start removing it.
And some providers do a great job of aging out their indicators, and some don't. So that's why we had to consider it here and give you flexibility and override. Yes?
Is there a VM image out there?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. And is this ran under Linux or is that
installation? We provide an OVA, but basically, MyMail, you can also use an ISO image to automatically load MyMail on a Ubuntu cloud image. So you can download whatever Ubuntu cloud image you want, attach the ISO image via cloud init, and it will install MyMail on it. So, and you have root access. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, the goal is to make it directly accessible. All of the code is accessible. Yeah, you have complete freedom over it. Anyone else?
Question here?
How about mining email attachment type of feeds? Like a
Can be done.
PDF with a list of IPs.
Sorry, say that again.
Like a PDF that has a list of IPs in it.
Oh,
So we have a slightly different way of dealing with that, which would be to shunt the file to wildfire, let it explode, and if there is something hazardous in there, we would take that list of indicators out.
or you mean PDF with the incidents in it?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Actually, we were more thinking about a miner for MISP, or for threat intelligence platform where you can parse and extract indicator, and then with an API retrieve from that. But of course, yeah, I think that probably a miner for that complex task could be over-engineered, but could be done. Could be done. You can also do that when it will be open source.
you could do it and share it with us.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
or keep it private, as you prefer.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
I saw the taxi sticks subscribe. Do you have a pub as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, so this can actually harvest data from all of our sources in Palo and publish them out via Stix Taxi. So in areas where you've had difficulty integrating or passing indicators to your local threat ecosystem today, this gives you a way to do it.
And the follow-up is whose implementation of taxi?
Luigi Mori?
Okay.
Yeah, this guy. No, yeah.
Sorry, say it again.
Yeah, what we've done is we've actually done interoperability testing. We actually, for QA, we used Ultra Edge.
Okay.
And we wrote an inbound one for them as well for FSISAC, so you can consume that. The goal is there will be subtle tweaks on it depending upon what your output is. You guys have output with that. If there's something that is quasi-standard, because there's about 1 million ways to skin that cat, just let us know. We'll help you plumb the output.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great.